Welcome to another exciting segment of Math with Miss Bennett. Today we're going to talk about volume. Volume is the space contained inside a 3D figure. And it's measured in cubic units. All right. So when we look at volume, there are two methods of thinking of volume. There's the old way. And this is what you probably learned in elementary school. You learned volume equals length times width times height. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's my cursive L. Technically, in geometry, capital letters mean something special, like volume. So you can't just put a capital L for length. We're going to talk in 7th grade about a new way. A new way that is a better way, because this volume formula works for every prism in the entire world, not just cubes and rectangular prisms. So the new way is to think volume equals base area times height. And that is the height of the prism. We should specify that. Maybe I'll put that here. Times prism height. That formula is often written as big V equals big B times H. So this is our new way of thinking of volume, and I'm going to show you how it works in the next slide. Here we have a rectangular prism, and back in the day you would have solved this by saying volume equals length times width times height. But today we're going to do this a little bit differently than you might be used to. Today we're going to look at it from the perspective of volume equals base area times prism height. So the base area. In a rectangular prism, the base area is easy because the base area is always the area of the bottom rectangle. In fact, do you see that length times width? That's how you find the base area of a rectangle, correct? That's how you find the volume piece you need. So we're going to say area equals length times width. The length of this rectangle is 13 and the width is 8. Making the area of our rectangle 104 inches squared. Now when you're doing the math for the volume, you won't need to write the inches squared part. So let's fill in our formula. Volume equals base area, which we found to be 104, times prism height, which is 7. The only measurement we didn't use, how tall it is. I want you to imagine that the volume formula is kind of like stacking up books or pancakes. You find the area of one layer, and then you start to imagine this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as a bunch of layers. So you're multiplying it by how many layers of that area there are, and there are 7 of them. So the volume of our shape is 728 inches cubed. There you go. Let's try another. Here we have a triangular prism, but you need to be careful. It's laying on its side. Because it's a triangular prism, its base is a triangle, not the rectangle. The base isn't always the bottom. They love to turn the shape sideways to confuse us. So here we have the base, and I'm using this one because I don't want to mess up the one that's labeled. So we're going to say volume equals base area times prism height. The base is a triangle. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Or you could say base times height divided by 2. The base of the triangle is 8. And the height of the triangle is 6. So when I find my area here, I'm going to say 1/2 times 8 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24 yards squared. Again, I don't need the yards squared in my formula, but it's helpful to remember. Now I need to find the volume. I've got the base area, 24, and I'm going to multiply it by the prism height, which, because it's laying down, looks more like the prism's length. And the volume is 336 yards cubed. There is a triangular prism. Let's try another shape. Here's a triangular prism standing up properly, where the base is literally on the bottom. So I'm going to shade the one that's not on the bottom because I don't want to mess up the one that I've got with measurements and a right angle marked. Volume equals base area times prism height. Our base is a triangle. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Now I hope you can see this little right angle here. One half, the base is 4, and the height is 4. How do I know? It's because of that little right angle. So no, really this triangle looks sort of like that. Alright, 1/2 times 4 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8 feet squared, but I don't need the feet squared when I put it into the formula. Now I've got the volume is the base area of 8 times the height of the prism, which coincidentally also is 8, making the volume 64 feet cubed. There's the volume. Now we've got a pyramid. With pyramids, you really need to know one important thing. Even though a triangle area is half of its rectangle area, a pyramid volume is not half of the rectangular prism volume. It's 1/3 of the volume. Let me see if I can do my best to explain. I've drawn the rectangular prism with the measurements 14 height by 13 by 13 length by 7 width over this pyramid. If you kind of look to the sides, you can almost see that the pyramid might fit once in this space, and then once in this space, and then once in its original space. That might be helpful. But let's continue here. So the volume of a pyramid is 1/3 of the base area times the prism height, because the pyramid is 1/3 of the prism. And remember, this part is the prism. The prism's volume. So let's find the base area. Well, the base is a rectangle, and the area of a rectangle is length times width. So the area is 13 times 7, which is 91 inches squared. Now we're going to put it into our formula. 1/3, because the pyramid is just 1/3 of the big prism's volume, times the base area, which we found to be 91, times the prism height, which is 14. It's the same height as the pyramid, because we're looking at the prism that would have the exact same height as the pyramid. Now 91 times 14 is 1,274. So we're going to say 1/3 times 1,274. And we're going to see that our volume is about 424 point repeating sixes. Your calculator might show a 7 at the end, but remember, that's because the calculators can't handle repeating decimals, and they end up having to round at the end. And a 6 next door would round me up to a 7. And there's the volume of a pyramid. It's basically just dividing the prism volume by 3. Let's try another one. Alright, this is the type of pyramid people don't like. It's a triangular pyramid, so its base is a triangle. They do exist. Not all pyramids are square pyramids like the pyramids in Egypt. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Now you have to be careful and read these dimensions very closely. You can see the right angles right about here. So its base should be 14 and its height is 9.747. Now that seems to be a little bit picky that they went to that many decimal places, but I have found that these worksheet generators actually try to maintain accuracy, and that really would be about the height of a triangle with those dimensions. So I'm going to pause and use my calculator and find that area, which is 68.229. 68 and 229 thousandths millimeters squared. Let's plug that into my volume formula. Remember that we're finding the volume of a pyramid, so we're going to take 1/3 of the prism's base area times prism height. The base of the pyramid is 68.229, and the height of the pyramid is that 13 we haven't used, meaning these 12s are useless pieces of information. Now, if we were finding surface area, you would need those 12s, but you don't for volume. So continuing here, I'm going to pause and use my calculator. And when you multiply all 3 of those numbers at once, you'll find that the volume is 295.659. And if you needed to round, you could, although there's nothing wrong unless the directions say to round with leaving your answer in that form. Millimeters cubed. And there you have it. The volume of a triangular a triangular pyramid, a rectangular pyramid, a triangular prism lying down, and your old standard, the rectangular prism. I hope that this helps. Remember that our new way of looking at volume is to think of base area times prism height. And when it's a pyramid, the volume is 1/3 of the base area times the prism height, because a pyramid will fit into a prism of the same base and height 3 times. I hope that this has been helpful, even though it's a bit of a long one. This is another exciting segment of Math with Miss Bennett.